What's up, you guys? Oh my god, it's been so long since we've done something like this, right? I just finished filming a couple of videos for work. I have like these insane projects at the moment that I'm like, Anyway, I just finished filming them. I'm already set up, so I thought, you know what? I'm just going to quickly make a video now because it's been literally months since I've sat in front of, cameras and done this thing. So what I wanted to do today, because I was supposed to do it months ago, is the first half of a Q&A. So many months ago, I don't even know when, I asked you guys on Instagram to give me your questions and we do a Q&A. So I got a whole bunch of amazing questions. You guys, seriously, I haven't done a Q&A in years, but like the level of questions are just like, it's just like something else now. You guys are amazing. Anyway, so I have some cool questions to answer. And as I said, I'm going to do this in two parts. So let's jump in and get this happening, okay? So the first question from Hollow Moon Mountain is, what books do you use for bibliomancy? So for those of you who don't know, bibliomancy is a form of divination. And this is where you hold a book. I like to hold a book and like connect with it, but you grab a book or whatever, and you ask a question or you ask for guidance in some way, and you open up the book and you read a random page, passage, whatever it is, and your answer's in there. Okay, so that's bibliomancy. So I often use, my other book's up there. The book that I use the most commonly for this is Women Who Run with the Wolves. Maybe I'll like do a thing here so you can see. So this is a book that I often use because it's very poetic. I personally find that like books that are a little bit more abstract are a really good tool for bibliomancy rather than more structured books. Although you can use literally anything. So you can use comic books, you could use, why can't I think of any examples? The newspaper, I don't know, literally anything, okay? So one of the other books that I really, really like to use is here, my Poe book. So this is the Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. And I do find the first part better, which is more his poetry. So I like to open that up and use that for my bibliomancy. Another one that is really, really common, I don't use it a lot, but many witches do, particularly within certain traditions, that is the Bible. So I have my husband's cute little Bible here, which I actually keep in my room. I use it for various spell things. Oh, there's a ripped page in here. Interesting. But the Bible is a really, really good one. It's super abstract and poetic and like sort of weird language, right? So it's a really good one when you're asking for guidance to actually flip open and get some from in there. The next question is from Katniss Kern, and she says, do you have multiple tarot and oracle decks, and which are your favorite? I think it's supposed to be which one is your favorite, and I changed it to which are your favorite because that's how I roll. All right, so my most favorite, which is so funny because it took me years after getting into tarot to even go near this deck, and that is the Rider-Waite. Okay, the classic Rider-Waite. I always thought, like so many people, that it was so ugly, like the colors in it, I couldn't even I was like, oh, it's just so gross, right? And then I actually bought the deck for a course that I was going to do, which fell through, but I needed specifically this Rider-Waite deck. And it sat around for like a month or something, and then I started using it, and then I started loving it. And now it's 100% my go-to. It speaks to me more clearly than any other deck. It is comforting to me more than any other deck. This one in particular is like, it's almost like a talisman in and of itself. Like this one is my baby. I have another one as well. See behind me here, I pull a card every day. Sorry, I'm trying not to look at myself in the mirror, in the screen. I'm using my phone anyway. So I've got another one here. Let me show it to you. So this one has this backing. I don't know the different names. Like I know they've all got different names and stuff. I'm not a tarot collector, so I don't know the details of all the things. I just like using tarot. Okay, so I've got this one, and this one's sort of a bit more vintagey colors, like they're more muted. So I wanted to give that a go. And I'm dropping cards. I don't love it as much, weirdly, as the OG Rider-Waite, and I think because it's that specific deck, you know, like that deck's been with me for years now. We've gone through so much together, so it's very, very precious to me. But I love the cardstock actually of this one. It just shuffles so beautifully. I think you might call it a linen finish. I don't know. Anyway, I told you I'm not a tarot collector. I don't know these things. But so I love my Rider-Waite. That is my OG. At the moment, actually for probably about 6 months or so now, I've really been loving the Everyday Witch as well, which I didn't think I would. It's another one of those ones that I saw the backing and I was like, oh, it's so like kitschy gross, like, right? But then I can't remember. I think I was seeing a bunch of people doing readings with it or something. And then I just fell in love with the imagery. I just like, you know, it's like witches and stuff, right? Like it's very, sorry, I'm not good at this. It's very Rider-Waite Smith in its imagery. So it's very sort of true to that. But then it's just depicted with witches. So I absolutely love this deck. And this is the one that I use for my weekly draws. So at the moment I'm using the Rider-Waite for my daily. This is for my weekly. And then anytime I do readings, I'll reach for various decks, but most of the time I'm going to reach for this one. I could talk about a bunch of other decks, but those are the ones that I'm really reaching for at the moment. Actually, there is one more I want to share with you. Another one that I really, really like working with is the Gypsy Witch card deck. I was going to call it tarot, but it's not tarot. It's actually a playing card deck, but it has, let me put my face in the way. It has its own system. So it's got like a little thing on each card with a picture. And I actually love the way it reads because I really like playing cards too. And I use this deck specifically to speak with a particular I'm going to say spirit that I work with. She's not really a deity. And we might get to that at the end of this, but those are my favorite decks. Okay, for now, let's go. So the next one is from Sea Stone Healing, and he asks, can you discuss the evolution of your practices from early days on the path to current? What has shifted the most? What sparks your soul for your personal path? Massive question. Okay, so the evolution of my practices. So, well, in the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing, like anyone else, right? I was very naive, but there is a beauty that comes with naivety. Like when you are beginning in magic, there is just a kind of wonder to the world that eventually you lose as you learn more and, you know, really become immersed in the world. You lose that sparkle that is only there when you are new. So I spent a lot of time outdoors. I was very much pagan in the beginning. I was very focused on that kind of spirituality, connecting with the earth. I used the Earth Magic Oracle a lot back then, just to go back to the other question. That was my deck for everything always. I actually pulled it out the other day and had a little play with it, and I've included it in my I don't even know what you call it, my bag that I take places with me when I go, and it's my witchy stuff, right? So yeah, but very much that sort of pagan, like earthy, that's how I sort of really began. And then after a few years, I kind of found myself really kind of stuck. I wasn't sure what I was doing. I was, you know, connecting with different deities and spirits and angels and this sort of thing. But it was still kind of very much about the earth, but things were shifting. And then I'm just making this real short, right? And then I moved and I wasn't able to have a private space for 7 months. Oh my God, it was a challenge, but it was like a reset for me, which was really cool. So what I realized later is it just totally reset my practice. Like I was doing stuff in that interim, in that 7 months, but I didn't have my altar space. I didn't have my room. I couldn't pull out a whole lot of things. So my practice really had a cleansing period, I suppose, a cleansing time. And when I came back, things have developed since then. So it's probably been about 2 years now, I guess, since I've had my room and my space and my altar and blah. And things have changed significantly. in that time also found a lot of resources which were the sorts of things that I had been looking for a long time, but sort of I didn't know words for them, right? Like I didn't know the words for the kinds of magic that I was looking for. And then over the past 2.5, 3 years, I started finding these resources. And so that's really helped inspire me in my craft. And I feel like I've now reached a level of maturity that I hadn't experienced before, a level of depth perhaps, but also confidence and just like comfortability in my own thing that I'm doing. I don't feel like I'm having to reach outside myself as much. I really enjoy reading, and because I work professionally as a witch as well, I think it's important for me to continue, studying and looking out there and that sort of thing. But for my own practice, I found a space where I feel very connected. I work with some spirits. There's one in particular at the moment that I'm working with. I tend to sort of be like that. Like there's a few that I work with sort of on the whole, but I tend to only really for a space of time connect with one. I tend to be more of that kind of person. Like I'm less of a group friend and more of a one-on-one, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of that, a lot of divination, plenty of spell work. I think that's a good, what's shifted most, I think, is that before I was really concentrated on the earth and connecting with the earth, and now it's like more folk magic, I guess, which is still obviously very earthy, but because I'm living in a suburban area now, I don't feel as connected to the earth as I did at my last house, which is a bit sad, but that's okay. It's all part of the evolution, right? It's all good. All right, the next question from the Boss Ass Witch, which love that name, right, is how do you blend your spiritual and magical practices and life? How do you blend your spiritual and magical practices with your mundane life? And there's a couple of other follow-up sort of questions from that. So the way that I blend these two is, first of all, I'm very, very blessed to work in the industry. Now, a lot of what I do, this is what a lot of people don't understand, is it's not like you're like doing all the things that you love to do with magic all day when you work as, whatever to do with magic, right? There's a lot of stuff, it's still work, it's still a job. There's a lot of stuff that I really don't like doing. Like there's a lot of stuff that's just like, oh my God, I keep looking at over there because that's where my computer is, where I do all my work, most of it anyway. So, there's plenty of stuff that I don't enjoy doing. It's not like I'm like, oh, I feel like I never work a day in my life because I love my job so much. It's not like that. It's still work is work, okay? But that is part of it, I suppose, for me personally, is that I decided to pursue a career in the industry. Now, aside from that, other ways that I put it in are very, very simple. And this is something I think we forget. Like, to make magic a part of your life, you've got to weave it into the everyday things that you do. So some stuff that's really common and has been practiced for, you can see examples of hundreds and thousands of years, is cleaning. Okay, so if you bring in your magic to your cleaning, so you're cleansing away, or you're also adding in intention that you want in your home as you're cleaning, floors and walls and windows and dishes and everything, right? So that's a big one. Also adding into cooking. So when I am making food, just all it takes is you don't have to do anything fancy. It's just for a moment having intention, like being focused and just focusing on putting your energy into the food as you stir it, as you bake it, as you whatever you're doing. And another really good way to do this is with beverages. So like when you make a tea, you stir in an intention, or a coffee. When you have a morning water, you think about the cleansing. So these are some really common ways that I add magic into my everyday life. Another really easy way to do it, I think, is with protection magic. So putting up protections for your car, your home, your kids, as they're going to school or whatever, your partner as they go to work, all these sorts of things, doing protections, or for yourself, of course. So those are some ways that I commonly add in my spiritual and magical practice into my life. So I'm trying to get the question right. Also, I pray quite a lot. Prayer is a word that can be funny for some people, but simply I speak to spirits, okay? Sometimes that is God. Sometimes that is the other spirits that I work with. So as I'm going around doing things in the house, I'm speaking to my spirits about whatever it is. And often, especially now, as I do it more, and you will find this too, as you do it more, you actually can sense, see, or hear that spirit, God, whoever, speaking back to you. Like you'll see it in different little symbols and signs, not symbols, but little signs and things that happen. So that's a way that I do that. The next question from him is, in what ways do you find they blend on their own? So, okay. So again, in cooking, cleaning, that sort of stuff, like it's really, really easy. All you need is a moment of focused intention and you're golden. And the last one is, what has been the most surprising or unexpected part of your practice? I think, okay, this is just what's coming to my head, and I'm sure I could think of an amazing answer, but I don't have time. So something surprising that happened recently was that I had a certain spirit come through to me, and she is not someone that I expected. She's from a culture totally outside of my own, a culture that I'm not familiar with at all. But it happened in a way that was so visceral and so like deeply experiential, and I've just fucking run with it. That was incredibly surprising to me. I know that's kind of a more common one. Well, I feel like it's common. I have a video up about deities, and that is like, I mean, that gets comments like constantly of people like, oh my God, like, you know, so, you know, I think it's kind of a common thing. I can't think of anything else that's been super surprising off the top of my head. And I'm just trying to, like, I'm looking around for visual cues, but I'm not sure. So maybe if I think of something else, I'll let you guys know, but that's my answer for now. All right, the next question is from Dragon Fairy, and she asks, how has your practice changed or grown during the last few years, especially with the quarantines? So for me, it gave me a lot of space to obviously focus on my practice. As I mentioned in the beginning, so at the start of the whole, we won't say the word, right? The C word. At the start of all of that bullshit, I didn't have my space or an altar or anything like that. So that was very, very difficult. And it was about halfway through a very strict, long lockdown that we had here that I was able to have my space again. So that was really nice to kind of do that, but it gave me a lot of time for reflection. Now I already worked from home. I have for many years, but things shifted because my husband came and worked at home, and he still does now. And my son was obviously home as well. We had a lot of lockdowns here, and very strict lockdowns in Melbourne, Australia. At one point, we were actually the longest and most harshest lockdown in the world, so that was fun. But I think we're on par with things now. We're opening up. Things are good, you know. Life is resuming. But that's probably the biggest thing, is that I had time for reflection. I went deeper into my craft. I don't know how much that's to do with the C word, because a lot of things changed in my life right around that time. I moved, didn't have space. Then I had my space back. You know, I found resources that really inspired me very deeply, all this kind of thing. So it all kind of happened at once. The next question is by Native Pagan, my dear friend. And she asks, how have you managed life during the C word? I don't know if YouTube still does like sensory stuff. I don't think, I'll just say it, COVID. In both your magical and mundane life. So it was tough, like it has been for everyone. For me, I have had a real frustrating thing happen, and that is that I had anxiety come up again. So in the past, I've suffered with really, really bad anxiety. I used to get panic attacks and this kind of thing. And I worked through a lot of that stuff over many years, and I was all good, right? For quite a few years, I was okay. And then I always get a little bit funny during spring. I don't like spring energy. It makes me feel quite vulnerable, and just, I'm not big on it. So spring happened right as we were let out of our big lockdown. So I can't remember how long that one was. I think it was 2 months. Was it long? I think it was 3 months, actually. I think we were locked down for 3 months. Okay, so not allowed to leave the house. We were allowed to exercise for 1 hour a day. We weren't allowed to go outside of 5 kilometers or 2 miles from our home. Obviously, we weren't allowed to see anyone. We were masked outside. And we also had curfew. Okay, so it was pretty intense, right? And then we were let down back out into the world right as spring happened. And obviously, the combination of that just set me off. And so from there, I've been kind of battling with this monster again. And I was really, really, really mad about it for so long because I was like, this is bullshit. Like, I've done this work and now here I am again. And it got so bad. At one point, it was just terrible. But I reached out to Crimson Fire, and we had stopped working together once I kind of moved down here for a while. It was just like a break, and all this stuff happened. Life happened. And then I reached out to her, and she was like, "What the why did you leave it this long?" Like, it was bad, you guys. It was very, very bad. I think that was the middle of last year when I reached out to her. It must have been. Anyway, so that was a big thing for me. But weirdly, that's been the worst thing in my immediate little life. But overall, it's been kind of good. Like, financially, we're doing a lot better. As a family unit, we're doing a lot better. So as I said, my husband works at home and my son was at home a lot. But particularly my husband working at home has been huge for us. Before he was traveling easily 2 hours a day, if not a lot more, just to get to and from work. And now, he's here and I can pop in the middle of the day and chat to him. And, usually he's like super busy, but, I do that. I'm like, hey, what's going on? So there's a lot more connection there. It's been really, really good for us in that regard. So how did I manage? Some stuff I didn't manage too well, but I reached out eventually. So that was really, really good and really important. And other than that, my practice has definitely been a rock bed. Is that a good word? A cornerstone for me. I don't always use it. I think a lot of us do this. I do more so now, but back then when it was more of a thing, there's this thing about avoiding our practice unless we're like perfect, which is such bullshit, right? So I had a little bit of that crap happening for a while. I mean, yeah. But when I actually went to my practice, it was a real rock for me to really get through all of the difficulties, in my life. I've worked some serious magic to help me through some very, very difficult experiences with anxiety. There's been some really big things that have come up that I've had to face, and it's been tough. It's been very, very tough. But yeah, so yes, I hope that answers the question. I've just gone on about other things, but thank you so much, my dear, for your wonderful question. And the last one that I'm going to answer today from another friend, Pandora Lacora. She says, I'm interested to hear about your relationship with the divine and what spirits and deities, etc. you work with. How much do I want to say? So, as you guys know, in the past, I have worked with and mentioned the Morrigan, the Horned God, and Baba Yaga. So I work with those three. I'm not super intimate with any of those at the moment. I feel like the Morrigan's taken a real back seat, although I still have a space for her and, that sort of thing. Just because there was just so much there with her. So I'm not, but we're not working together right now, and who knows what will happen there. I work with a familiar spirit. So he takes the form of an animal. So I work with him. I've also been playing with the idea of God. Again, you heard me mention him before. So that's been really cool. God the Father, particularly. So I'm finding quite a lot of healing in that kind of relationship. I find a lot of comfort and weirdly connection. I say weirdly because I did struggle to connect with God when I was a Christian for a lot of my kind of Christian life, which was like from the age of 3 to the age of 23, something. I'm not sure. I stopped going to church at some point, but I don't know when I was like, I'm done with this. 22, 23, 24, 25, something like that. Oh, hair. So yeah, but I'm finding, good connection there. So that's really nice. What are the spirits? I've got like house spirits, spirits of place. I work with ancestors as well. Who else do I work with? And there's this one spirit that has come through fairly recently, within the last few months, but I'm not ready to talk about that online. I wouldn't mind answering, like talking to someone about it, like one-on-one or whatever, but I don't want to just put it out there because I'm just, I don't want people's bullshit coming my way, so whatever. So I'm just not going to go there right now. But I'm having a really incredible time with this kind of deity. I'm finding her like more, I don't know how to say this, like more practically connective than any other spirit that I've ever worked with. Like very kind of vocal. I don't hear her, but I see a lot of signs from her. Like I can feel her communicating with me. And those cards that I was showing you before, the they're right here somewhere. The Gypsy Witch playing cards, like she just speaks so clearly through them, it's just unbelievable. It's incredible. So that's been really, really cool. That's all I can think of right now. I mean, there are other sort of minor ones like spirits of place, and I create spirits as well. So there's that sort of thing too. But those are kind of the major ones. I don't think there's anyone else right now. I'm just like, again, I'm looking around for visual cues. Is there anyone else that I work with? I think that's it. So those are the ones that I work with. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. We did it in not too bad time. I'm quite happy with that. Normally I go way longer, so this is awesome. I'm going to do part 2 at some point soon where I will answer the other, how many questions? The other 7 questions that I got. So there's some more goodness coming there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I would love to hear your answers to these questions as well. So if you want to pop down below, all 7 answers if you like for yourself. I would really love to hear from you. If you want to do a video response, because I think these are really cool questions, right? Some of them are kind of similar, but if you want to do a video response and answer these questions for yourself, I would also love to see that. Make sure, please, that you pop a link down below if you do that so that we can all go and check that out too. All right, you guys, I'm wishing you so much love and many blessings. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one. Mwah. Goodbye.